You're listening to Quantum Harry the Podcast, a podcast version of the book Quantum Harry, A Unified Theory of the Potterverse by B.L. Purdom. Episode 7, Fountain of Youth. We begin this episode with a quote from Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, Chapter 25, The Seer Overheard. Ginny had retired to the library, and Harry was sitting beside the window in the common room, supposedly finishing his herbology homework, but in reality reliving a particularly happy hour he had spent down by the lake with Ginny at lunchtime. As the partner of an archetypal maiden, Ginny, there's no question that Harry is an archetypal youth, the ruling archetype for the sixth book, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. The liminal hero is an aspect of the seventh archetype, the liminal being, but the archetype of a character who is playing the role of the hero doesn't have to be a youth. Dumbledore wasn't an archetypal youth when he defeated Grindelwald. He was a wise old man. Plus, a character embodying the youth archetype doesn't have to be liminal or a hero. Harry is hardly the only archetypal youth in the series or in the sixth book, which is ruled by this archetype. In episode 3, Iron Maiden, I talked about how Bill/Fleur and Remus/Tonks are doppelganger couples to Harry/Ginny. The girls in the couples are all maidens, while Bill, Remus, and Harry are youths. In addition to this, Bill, Remus, and Harry are also liminal. Bill and Remus fall in love with and marry the maidens Fleur and Tonks, overlapping time-wise with Harry and Ginny's whirlwind romance. Remus also appoints Harry, a fellow youth, as godfather to his son Teddy, named for another youth, Ted Tonks, husband of the maiden Andromeda. And in the epilogue of Deathly Hallows, Teddy Lupin is paired with another maiden, Bill and Fleur's daughter Victoire. Michael Corner and Dean Thomas both embody the youth because of their link to Ginny. But Michael and Ginny don't result in an overtly romantic pairing, and they're almost never present as a couple, so Harry doesn't need to think of Michael as competition. Dean Thomas is the successor to Michael. He's always been Harry's friend and supporter. They share similar backgrounds, growing up with Muggles and learning that they were wizards at the age of 11. Rowling says that Dean's a half-blood, with a wizard father he's never met, giving him the same blood status Voldemort gives Harry, since he considers Lily to be the same as a Muggle. When Seamus Finnegan, Dean's best friend, echoes Mrs. Finnegan's opinion of Harry, Dean disagrees with Seamus. Harry can't really dislike Dean on non-romantic grounds, unlike Michael, who took a dislike to Harry at DA meetings in Order of the Phoenix and was openly hostile. It seemed like Michael was threatened by Harry. He may have known that Ginny fancied Harry when she was younger, and because of this, he considered Harry to be competition. When Ginny is seeing Dean, one reason that she is inaccessible to Harry is that he likes Dean, his friend and ally. This is an even greater obstacle than Ginny being Ron's sister. Examining the game pieces, the archetypes, can reveal a lot about individual characters, but it's even more instructive to look at the way the archetypes interact with each other, like when J.K. Rowling has Harry accompanied by the same archetypes repeatedly. He's with the archetypal mother, father, and wise old man on Privet Drive when he's a baby, which is to say, he's with Hagrid, McGonagall, and Dumbledore. There is the mother, father, and wise old man group of Hermione, Neville, and Ron, who are with Harry when he crosses the lake and meets Fluffy. And Rowling gives us the same archetypal group at the end of Goblet of Fire, this time represented by his mother Lily, Cedric and James doubling the father archetype, and Frank Bryce is the wise old man. These are also the archetypes who walk with Harry to his death in the seventh book. The mother Lily, the father James, and the wise old man Sirius, plus Remus, an archetypal youth, doubling Harry's own archetype. Like the end of Goblet of Fire, the archetype that is doubled in Deathly Hallows is the archetype of the person who has just died or is about to die. Now that we have an age and gender archetype for Harry, the youth, we'll look at how Rowling created the trio as a composite group embodying archetypes representing youth, parenthood, and old age, and other ways that she links the trio, plus one more. Harry isn't just part of the youth, father, wise old man trio that includes Neville and Ron, and he isn't just Ginny's counterpart, a youth to her maiden. He's also part of the trio, with two capital T's. J.K. Rowling knew from the start that Harry's best friends would be Ron and Hermione. These characters embody the archetypes of a young person, Harry, a parent, Hermione, and an elderly person, Ron, together making a full life cycle. Rowling has revealed details about how she enmeshed aspects of their personalities together to form a harmonious whole, even down to their wands. On her old website, in the Extra Stuff section, Rowling wrote that she was working on Chapter 6 of Philosopher's Stone in 1990 when she decided that Harry had a wand made of wood from the holly tree. She writes, quote, "It was not an arbitrary decision. Holly has certain connotations that were perfect for Harry, particularly when contrasted with the traditional associations of yew from which Voldemort's wand is made," unquote. That's U-Y-E-W. She learned that the holly tree's name comes from the word holy and that it was supposed to repel evil. It was a serendipitous choice, since she also learned that the Celts associated specific trees with certain times of year. Again, Rowling writes, quote, "Entirely by coincidence, I had assigned Harry the correct wood for his day of birth," unquote, the 31st of July, which is also Rowling's birthday. After this, she intentionally gave Ron and Hermione the wand woods corresponding to their birthdays, the 1st of March and the 19th of September, so Ron had ash and Hermione had vinewood. They are the only characters whose original wands correspond to this Celtic system. Hagrid's does not. He has oak, not elderwood, to correspond with his birthday, the 6th of December. We can assume that Rowling wanted to reserve elderwood for the Elder Wand. Rowling also writes, quote, "I liked having a hidden connection between Harry, Ron, and Hermione's wands that only I knew about, until now anyway," unquote. Harry's, Ron's, and Hermione's wands have the three cores Ollivander names in the first book. Each core relates to their innate characters. Harry having a phoenix feather is appropriate because he cheats death as a baby and returns from death in the final book, plus he has metaphorical resurrections in each book. It's appropriate that Ron, the wise old man, has a unicorn hair, which closely resembles white hair. And Hermione, an archetypal mother, has dragon heartstring from a creature that's a symbol of earth and fertility. Rowling associates specific colors with the trio: green, red, and blue. Harry's green eyes come up repeatedly, and the spell that failed to kill him is distinguished by green light. Ron's red hair is his most prominent physical feature, as Ginny's is hers. Rowling dresses Ron in shades of red that clash spectacularly with his hair, like an orange Chudley Cannon's hat and the maroon jumpers his mother knits for him, instead of the green ones she makes for Harry. Hermione, the almost Ravenclaw, is linked to the color blue, like the bluebell flames she uses to set Snape's robes on fire, and she wears blue dress robes to the Yule Ball. Blue is also linked to the Virgin Mary, another archetypal mother. Harry and Ron wear shades of green and red to the Yule Ball, which are their emblematic colors. These colors are also revealing about the trio's secondary house affiliations. They're all nominally Gryffindors, but with red for his emblematic color, Ron's the only Gryffindor through and through. Harry has a little Slytherin in him, with green for his color, and Hermione has a little Ravenclaw, which matches her color, blue. Hufflepuff's been left out, but there are times when all four houses are represented by the trio plus another person, Neville. He's the father in the mother-father-wise-old-man group who accompanies Harry when they cross the lake, when they meet Fluffy, and when the trio is trying to leave Gryffindor Tower to protect the Philosopher's Stone. And in the 7th book, Neville takes the trio through the tunnel connecting Aberforth's pub to the Room of Requirement. So Neville, Hermione, and Ron are with Harry the first time he enters Hogwarts, and these three are with him again when he returns to Hogwarts. So if Harry's a combo of Slytherin and Gryffindor, and Hermione's a Gryffindor/Ravenclaw, then Neville's a combination of Gryffindor and Hufflepuff, since his favorite subject is herbology, taught by Hufflepuff's head of house, Professor Sprout. And, as we'll see starting in episode 10, but particularly in episodes 17, 18, and 19, when we look at the role of games, toys, and fairy tales in Goblet of Fire, the colors green, red, blue, and yellow are very commonly used by manufacturers of board games intended for 4 players, including companies that have manufactured Harry Potter board games. This is one of the many reasons that I call the archetypes J.K. Rowling's game pieces. It's almost as if Rowling is designing a game herself, with players from each of the Hogwarts houses in their emblematic colors. And that's because she really is. In addition to the trio, sometimes augmented by Neville, when Rowling wants Harry to be with a mother, father, and wise old man who are his peers, Rowling also created a group of 6 who embody all of the gender and age-based archetypes, forming a powerful whole. Starting with Order of the Phoenix, J.K. Rowling doubles the trio by adding Neville, Ginny, and Luna, so we now have the trio and counter trio. The counter trio also has 3 people embodying the archetypes of youth, Ginny the maiden, parenthood, Neville the father, and old age, Luna the crone. Each trio member has a counter trio doppelganger. Neville is Harry's, the child Voldemort could have targeted. Ginny is Ron's, his sister, and in essence a female version of him. And Luna, the anti-Hermione, is Hermione's. 3 is a symbol of wholeness and completion in Christianity, as in the Trinity. But 6 is also linked to special symbolism. It's the number of days for the creation story in Genesis, and the number 6 is often represented as a 6-pointed star made of a triangle pointed up and one pointed down. A Star of David, in other words. The triangle pointing up is also called the fire triangle in alchemy and is considered masculine, while the one pointing down is called the water triangle and is considered feminine. The fire triangle also points up to the air, another so-called masculine element, while the water triangle points down to the earth, another so-called feminine element. The male and female members of the trio and counter trio, Harry, Neville, and Ron versus Ginny, Hermione, and Luna, are also each a whole, representing a complete human life cycle. And 6 is, in many simple systems, the only number considered both masculine and feminine, because evidently in these systems the numbers have to be gendered, except for the number 6. Rowling is so in love with this team of 6 characters from the climax of the 5th book that she brings them together again in the climax of the 6th book. Out of all of the members of Dumbledore's army, only Neville and Luna, outside of Harry's most intimate circle, now including Ginny, answer the summons and join the fight against the invading Death Eaters in Half-Blood Prince. Rowling has this group travel to and from the castle on the train in the 5th book, and the trip at the beginning mirrors the mission to the Ministry near the end of the 5th book, even down to the use of thestrals. If we look at the 6 as trio and counter-trio triangles instead of male and female triangles, the trio points up. Harry is at the top of the so-called masculine triangle, supported by Hermione and Ron, while Ginny is at the bottom of the so-called feminine triangle, flanked by Neville and Luna. Ginny is a hero in her own right, as are many other characters, though only Harry is the protagonist hero. But she's also the main hero's partner, Harry's feminine shadow, with many of his attributes even having friends who are opposite-sex versions of Harry's closest friends. And the counter-trio operate as a shadow trio at Hogwarts during the 7th book, especially when Ginny, Neville, and Luna attempt to steal the Sword of Gryffindor. When viewing the 6 as 3 pairs of doppelgangers, it's easy to see how Neville and Harry, Ginny and Ron, and Luna and Hermione are flip sides of each other, yet share many attributes. In episode 6, I already talked about Rowling calling Luna the anti-Hermione and the ways that they're counterparts of each other. The first obvious reason for Ginny being Ron's doppelganger is that as his sister, she's a female version of him. Ginny is the first girl born to the Weasleys in several generations, which makes her an aberration, a female version of what is usually male. There are many parallels between Ron and Ginny in the 2nd book, which is ruled by her archetype, the Maiden. She stands up to Draco in the bookshop when he accosts Harry. Ron stands up to Draco for insulting Hermione. Ginny writes in the diary and is possessed by Tom Riddle, a Slytherin. Ron uses Polyjuice to pretend to be a Slytherin, so it's like he's doing the possessing, though he's just borrowing Crabbe's appearance. It's again an enemy, just as Ginny is possessed by the enemy. Just as there's a ruling archetype for each of the first 6 books that corresponds to an age and gender-related archetype, there's a member of the trio or counter-trio aligning with each of the first 6 books. For the girls, it's easy. Ginny, Hermione, and Luna are the best embodiments of the Maiden in the 2nd book, the Mother in the 3rd book, and the Crone in the 5th book, respectively. The trio or counter-trio character aligning with the 1st book is Ron, a young, wise old man who educates Harry about wizarding culture throughout the book and sacrifices himself during the life-sized chess game on the way to the Philosopher's Stone. Neville is the trio/counter-trio character aligning with the 4th book, ruled by his archetype, the Father. Just as he's a shadow chosen one to Harry throughout the series, Harry is a shadow Hogwarts champion to Cedric, another archetypal father, in Goblet of Fire. Neville's also linked to each tournament task Harry performs. First, Harry uses his broom to get an egg from a dragon, as if he's catching a snitch. This is an echo of Harry getting Neville's Remembrall back from Draco, whose name means dragon, which means J.K. Rowling was foreshadowing the first tournament task during the flying lesson way back in the first book. The real second task out of 4, not 3, is the unexpected task of the Yule Ball, in which Neville and Harry follow the same pattern of asking girls they fancy, who are both archetypal mothers, but who are already going to the ball with other tournament champions, and then going to the ball with girls who are archetypal maidens, who meet boys at the ball who are linked to Ravenclaw. Neville was to have given Harry information about Gillyweed for the task of retrieving the hostages from the lake, but Barty Crouch Jr.'s manipulations didn't quite accomplish this end. And finally, the last task, the hedge maze growing on the Quidditch pitch, is linked to Neville because of his affinity for herbology. Harry himself is the trio/counter-trio character who aligns with the 6th book, ruled by the youth archetype, even though he isn't ultimately the character in the book who best embodies this archetype. Nonetheless, Rowling gives us a group who can, due to their archetypes and the things they do and represent, align with each of the first 6 books that are ruled by archetypes defined as male or female, and each representing part of a full life cycle. The youth, being the ruling archetype for the 6th book, completes the roster of gender and age-based archetypes, with the 2 trios representing all 6 in the climactic battle of the book, and setting up the crisis to be solved in the final book, when Harry begins by thinking that there are only 6 Horcruxes, as one might assume that there are only 6 major archetypes: Wise Old Man, Maiden, Mother, Father, Crone, and Youth, only to discover that he, Harry, is the 7th Horcrux, just as there is a 7th archetype, the liminal being. In the first 5 books, someone besides Harry embodied the book's ruling archetype, and Harry stepped into their shoes or echoed their actions at some point. In the 6th book, that pattern becomes complicated by Harry being the epitome of the youth archetype in the series as a whole, which is why he's the member of the trio/counter-trio who aligns with the 6th book. In Half-Blood Prince, many characters embody the ruling archetype of the youth, and many duplicate Harry's actions, though in a couple of cases they predict his future actions, so he does step into the shoes of other people embodying the youth at those times. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince is without a doubt the book with the most romance. The triangle of Hermione, Ron, and Lavender is prominent, but the key romances involve archetypal youths and maidens. At the start, Dean is a youth in a relationship with a maiden, Ginny. Before the end, Harry is the one in a relationship with Ginny. Harry also has the example of other youths, Remus and Bill, who both think they're too dangerous to be in a relationship with their particular maidens, Tonks and Fleur, but change their minds. Harry also breaks up with Ginny because he's convinced that it's too dangerous for her to be with him. These other couples foreshadow their eventual reunion. Draco Malfoy is the best embodiment of the youth archetype in Half-Blood Prince. In versions between this book and the second, had Draco not only doing things similar to what Harry's done before, but also similar to things that Ginny, Harry's romantic counterpart, did in the second book. Ginny, under Tom Riddle's control, sneaks off to a secret chamber to release a deadly menace. Draco sneaks off to the Room of Requirement, also because of Tom Riddle, now known as Voldemort, to release a deadly menace into the castle, Death Eaters. In the second book, a maiden is not in control when she does these things, and in the 6th, a youth is in control of his actions. In the second book, Harry echoes Ginny's actions by writing in the diary, being taken in by Riddle, and opening the chamber. Unlike Ginny, he conquers the basilisk and destroys a Horcrux. In the 6th book, Draco echoes Harry's actions in the 2nd by going into the place of the enemy, the Room of Requirement, which was previously the DA's territory, rather than the Chamber, which is Slytherin territory, though Harry also infiltrated the Slytherin Common Room and fooled Draco into thinking he was a comrade by using Polyjuice Potion, which Draco has his sidekicks use to hide the fact that they're lookouts for him in the 6th book. The victory over the basilisk is inverted when Draco releases a basilisk equivalent into the school, the werewolf Fenrir Greyback and the other Death Eaters. At the climax, Harry and Draco step into each other's shoes, swapping places. Draco performs Harry's signature move, Expelliarmus, when he confronts Dumbledore and becomes master of the Elder Wand, making it possible for Harry to defeat Voldemort because he, in turn, disarms Draco in Deathly Hallows. Then, when Snape is fleeing the castle after having killed Dumbledore, Harry steps into Draco's shoes by trying to perform the spell Draco had started to use, like his Aunt Bellatrix, when he and Harry were in the boys' bathroom and Harry cast Sectum Sempra. He tries unsuccessfully to use Cruciatus on Snape, only later choosing a spell like Sectum Sempra that he knows would have dire results if Snape fails to block it, which infuriates Snape when Harry does finally try it, though he fails at that too. And soon after Draco goes on the run, Harry will echo Draco's actions again by telling Hermione and Ron that he is leaving school to hunt Horcruxes. Harry must reconcile and understand his relationship with the archetypes of the maiden, mother, and crone, and absorb the lessons of the wise old man, father, and other youths. His peers, Remus, Bill, and Draco, don't have Harry's burden, but he learns from them, taking their collective wisdom with him to his final confrontation with Voldemort, finding the strength that comes from retaining the lessons he learns from all of them, even one he once counted as an enemy. You've been listening to Quantum Harry the Podcast, a podcast version of the book Quantum Harry, A Unified Theory of the Potterverse by B.L. Purdom. All music heard on Quantum Harry is composed and performed by B.L. Purdom. Next time on Quantum Harry, Episode 8, Have You Tried Not Being Liminal? The first of 2 episodes about the liminal being, the ruling archetype for the 7th Harry Potter book, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I hope you'll join me.